What's one thing you did that improved your life so much that you wish you had done it sooner? Story 1. If someone asks me to do something and it will take 5 minutes or less, I do it immediately. It might not sound like much, but I never realized how many things I used to put off and then completely forget about. Also, once you've completed one 5-minute task, it's easier to move on to the next. I became much more productive and saved myself a lot of time and effort in the process. Story 2. Making decisions based on what I truly want, rather than what I think others want or expect from me, changed everything. It was always easy to prioritize others' needs because it meant I didn't have to figure out what I actually wanted or negotiate to get it. Just going along with everyone else felt easy and made me seem likable, but it didn't make me happy because my own needs were often left unmet. The real turning point was realizing that wanting something doesn't automatically mean acting on it. Expressing a desire isn't the same as forcing your will on others. For example, if someone asks what you want to eat, instead of saying, "Oh, whatever you want, I don't mind," there's nothing wrong with stating your preference, being open to other ideas, and finding a compromise. People actually appreciate clarity. It makes things easier for everyone. For bigger decisions, once you identify what you want, sit with it. Ask yourself, is my desire moral? Can I pursue it without compromising my integrity? What are the practical or emotional consequences for myself and others? Can I live with the decision I make? And if you're missing key information, ask for it to help you make an informed choice. Most importantly, don't waste time questioning whether you're allowed to want something. You already do, so acknowledge it. Then decide whether to pursue it. Even if you choose not to, at least you'll understand the desire and why you're not acting on it, instead of shutting it down without thinking. I'm so much happier now. Story 3. This will probably get buried, but seriously, go see a psychiatrist. I was always a smart kid and had no trouble in school, graduated high school with a 4.0 GPA, taking advanced and AP college-level classes. But when I got to college, everything changed. I couldn't study, spent 10 times longer on homework and projects than I should have, had terrible reading comprehension, awful short-term memory. Just a lot of issues that made me feel stupid and helpless. Even though I graduated with a pretty high GPA and got a job, I still struggled. One day, a coworker in his mid to late 30s told me he'd gone to a psychiatrist and got evaluated for ADHD. I always thought ADHD had to be diagnosed in childhood and only showed up in hyperactive kids. But when he described his experience, it sounded way too familiar. So I bit the bullet and made an appointment. I almost canceled it like 10 times during the 3-month wait, constantly telling myself, "You're just tired. You're not as smart as you think you are." Well, this past Monday, I finally went. I explained everything to the doctor. He asked me some questions, and once he started explaining the why behind those questions, everything clicked. It became clear that what I'd been experiencing wasn't normal, and it was very explainable. He told me that because I was smart, I'd managed to coast for years with minimal effort, but college pushed me past that point. He explained that there's a type of ADHD that's inattentive, not hyperactive. The conversation we had about how ADHD had affected my life up to that point, and how I'd managed to make it as far as I had, was long, but incredibly validating. I realized I wasn't dumb or lazy or just tired. I was dealing with a lack of dopamine that had me functioning at maybe 60 to 70% of my actual potential. Now that I've been officially diagnosed and started medication, it's honestly amazing to experience what it should feel like to function normally. All those hours I spent stressing over studying, wondering why I couldn't retain anything or figure out how to start a task, it finally all makes sense. This week has been one of my most productive in a long time. It's a slow job right now, not a ton to do, but for once I could actually focus and solve problems instead of staring at them for 10 minutes, stuck. I should have ignored my parents when they said, "There's no way you could have ADHD. You're calm and did well in school." I wish I had gone to get evaluated back in college when the problem started. Being able to think clearly and focus now is incredible. I 100% recommend talking to someone if you're experiencing anything like this, or feel free to ask me, now that I finally know what was going on. Story 4. I changed my driving habits. I used to be a somewhat aggressive driver, not the kind who weaves through traffic or cuts people off, but I definitely didn't like letting others in front of me on the highway. I would speed, hog the left lane, and generally drive with a bit of an edge. Over the past year, I've just stopped caring. I slowed down by about 5 miles per hour on the highways, started cruising in the middle lane, and made it a habit to use the left lane only for passing. I stopped stressing about people tailgating or speeding around me. And honestly, it's made my 140-mile daily commute so much easier and less stressful. Now I just get on the highway, set my cruise control, sit back, breathe, and enjoy my music. Story 5. Getting over my fears changed my life. I started watching a YouTube channel called Yes Theory and really embraced their philosophy. I thought deeply about what seek discomfort meant. I even gave a speech to my friends about it. But deep down, I still felt like a bit of a hypocrite because I had so many fears and anxieties. So I made the decision to face them. Learning to ride my bike. I'm 17 now, almost 18, and I only learned how to ride a bike about 10 months ago. I had been afraid of falling and getting hurt, so I avoided it. But once I pushed past that fear, it turned out to be amazing for my physical and mental health. I didn't lose a ton of weight, running might be better for that, but my cardio definitely improved. More importantly, it became a huge tool for managing my anxiety. Feeling down at the end of the day? I ride. Waking up in a bad mood? I ride. Had a fight with someone? I ride, clear my head, and come back calm. Fear of heights. This one felt more rational. After all, falling from a high place is actually dangerous. But it held me back from doing even basic things like going down slides, trying climbing walls, or doing any kind of arborism activity. Then last summer at a camp, I decided to face it head on. I signed up for all 3 activities, and I went first, before any of my friends, so I had no time to back out. And I loved it. I was still a little scared, but it felt freeing. I'm even planning to go skydiving next year. More than anything, I'm proud that I didn't let that fear control me anymore. Public speaking. This one is super common. Almost half the people I know fear public speaking, even when public just means a classroom of 19 students. In fact, in my class, 11 out of 19 openly admitted being afraid of it. I used to be one of them. I'd either memorize my speech word for word or just read it, and I'd still get anxious, sweaty, shaky, nervous. But I always loved debating, and when I started high school, I found out there was a debate society, probably the only one at the high school level in my country, and I joined right away. That's when everything started to change. My first debate didn't go well at all. I got overwhelmed with points of information from the other team and literally shouted, "Okay, I give up." "You're right," before sitting back down. But I kept going. 3 years later, I'm one of the ones running training sessions for new members, calm, confident, and loving it. Conquering these fears didn't just improve a few aspects of my life. It completely changed my personality, how others see me, how I see myself, and even reshaped my ambitions and future goals. Without a doubt, it was a crucial step in becoming who I am today. Story 6. You guys are going to think I'm nuts, but here goes. A CPAP machine. I'm a retired 57-year-old man who worked rotating shifts for 31 years, and I was tired all the time. I mean all the time. I could fall asleep anywhere, anytime, if I wanted to. One day, I went to a doctor's appointment for some nerve issues in my arm, and the doctor looked at me and said, "You'd better get a sleep study soon, or you're going to be dead by 60. I just stared at him and asked how the hell he knew that. Turns out, he was also a somnologist, a sleep specialist, and he said he could tell from experience. So I did the sleep study, and it turns out I was experiencing sleep apnea 32 times an hour. I was absolutely shocked. I got my CPAP machine in early November 2018, and I can't believe how much more energy and alertness I have now. And the cherry on top? My wife sleeps better too, because I don't snore anymore. Happy wife, happy life. Story 7. Cutting my mom out of my life completely was the best decision I ever made. I actually opened up about her for the first time on Reddit yesterday, and the anonymous nature of this place gave me the courage to keep talking. My mom was a hoarder. Our house was overrun with cockroaches, several kinds, huge wolf spiders, and black mold in the bathrooms. Our cats went to the bathroom all over the place, and it was my job to clean it up, even though I didn't have the proper tools. The environment was disgusting. She was also a compulsive liar. Sometimes it was for attention, like the time she told me my nephew had been molested at school, even though he hadn't, and insisted I not tell his parents because we didn't want to upset them. Other times it was to cover something up, like stealing money, maxing out my great-grandmother's credit card, using up my inheritance, and blaming my older brother for it. Once I was old enough to fend for myself, she completely stopped cooking for me. I remember going to a friend's house across the street and scarfing down granola bars because I was starving, but even that felt safer than eating anything my mom gave me. She loved pulling pranks, which could range from harmless, putting sugar instead of salt in mashed potatoes, to disturbing, like handing me a drink with a dead roach or spider at the bottom. The worst was when I was around 4, and she gave me tea brewed with magic mushrooms. To this day, the phrase, "Open your mouth and close your eyes, and I'll give you a big surprise," makes me shudder. I was terrified of taking medicine because she frequently drugged me. One time, she gave me one of her adult-strength opiate cough pills for a minor chest cold, and I was unconscious for over 8 hours. She just left me there. When I was in real medical trouble, like the time my back locked up so badly I couldn't bend over, I had to beg her for over an hour to wake up and take me to the doctor. She only got up after I broke down sobbing in pain. But when it came to mental health, she refused to help. She dismissed my depression and anxiety, telling me to fight through it. Yet when she decided she was depressed, she immediately went to a doctor and got on medication. She was an extreme right-wing conspiracy theorist, but not even a functional one. We had bug-out bags in case of the apocalypse, but she would snack on the food inside them, so they ended up empty. She reassured me that we'd be fine because she knew how to cook rattlesnake, and we'd survive when the terrorists came. Everything was always my fault. If I got upset, I was being dramatic. If I didn't want to hear about her sex life, I was a prude, but she would tell me anyway. She constantly tried to seduce my male friends. She once made out with one who was crying and emotionally vulnerable, and then complained to me when his older cousin got angry and told her to back off. She said, "What? Am I not good enough for him? He was barely an adult, had a girlfriend, and was my friend, and she was decades older." When my boyfriend visited for the first time, she warned me that he'd probably develop a crush on her because she was like me, but more fun. There's more. So much more. But even thinking about it is exhausting and brings me down. All I can say is, I'm unbelievably grateful she's out of my life forever. Taking my mental health seriously and getting on an antidepressant completely changed my life. My experience with depression was nothing like what I'd heard or expected. For me, it wasn't emotional sadness, it was physical. I didn't feel well, I was sleeping all the time and still felt exhausted. I gained weight and had to buy bigger pants for the first time since high school. I stopped hanging out with people, even for special occasions, because I was just so tired. I got in trouble at work for showing up late because I kept oversleeping. Honestly, I thought I was dying. I was convinced I had cancer or, best case scenario, something like hypothyroidism. I went to the doctor and had all kinds of tests done, lipid panel, thyroid hormones, testosterone, you name it. Everything came back normal, and I was devastated. I thought, so this is just my life now. Around the same time, I had been promoted into a job I hated. I also started seeing things in my girlfriend that made me realize we weren't meant to be together, but I didn't have the heart to break up with her because she had just lost her job and had nowhere else to go. Still, I didn't realize I was depressed until one specific morning. I have a 1-hour commute, and I've always loved listening to podcasts or audiobooks during that time. It's my me time. But that morning, I opened my podcast app, scrolled through it, and didn't care about any of it. I just didn't want to listen to anything. So I drove in total silence for an hour. Later, after I'd gotten to work, had some coffee, and felt a bit better, I thought back on that drive and realized how weird it was. I loved that time. Why didn't I want to enjoy it? That's when all those antidepressant commercials started running through my head. Have you lost interest in things you used to enjoy? Gained weight? Feel tired all the time, like you're dying? I didn't feel mentally sad. I felt sick. But I was desperate, so I booked an appointment with a therapist. After a few sessions and about 3 months on an SNRI, the difference was night and day. I wish I'd gotten help sooner. But with the stigma around mental health in the US, especially for men, it's hard. You're taught to be tough, to push through, to be the martyr. But for who? If you're fighting yourself, there's no way to win. I just can't believe I could have felt this okay years ago and never realized I deserved to feel this way. Story 9. I stopped chasing normal. I've lived with the effects of birth defects my entire life. And, naturally, I spent a lot of that time feeling jealous of what looked like normal in everyone else. As I got older, that envy evolved into an obsession with perfection. For a while, I thought that drive was helping me become a better version of myself. But by my late 20s, I was burned out. I had failed in several areas of my life, and instead of learning from those experiences, I saw them only as failures. I internalized them, let them eat away at my self-image, and never allowed myself the grace to see them as lessons. Then something unexpected happened. I was on a date with a girl who would later become my fiancée. We didn't make it to marriage. It's complicated, and she passed away a few years ago. On that first date, we did something rare. We dumped all our emotional baggage on the table. No filters, no pretense, just honesty. And it led to this amazing conversation where I confessed to her that I'd been chasing some idea of normal I had equated with perfection. She changed my perspective entirely. She told me something I'll never forget. Normal is an ever-moving goalpost. It's a fallacy. She made me realize that everyone has something they're dealing with, whether it's visible or not. That night, something shifted in me. Since then, I've made a conscious effort to stop comparing myself to others and to focus instead on being the best version of me. The relationship we had was full of ups and downs, like I said, complicated, but her lesson stayed with me. I carry that wisdom every day, and because of her, I'm able to carry it without all the extra baggage I used to drag behind me. Story 10. This is going to sound completely ridiculous and will probably get buried, and I 100% do not recommend going out of your way to do this. But honestly, a few years ago, I had a massive ant problem in my kitchen. They're back now too, lucky me. It was horrible, but it forced me to completely overhaul how I take care of my kitchen. When I first moved into that place, I was a typical uni student, with all the kitchen chaos that usually comes with that. But when the ants showed up, I had to get serious. Like, military-grade kitchen discipline serious. Leftover food? Straight into a sealed container, then straight into the fridge. Dirty dish? Wash it immediately, don't even set it down. Leaving it to soak? Forget it. If you leave anything out, you'll come back, and it'll be crawling with ants. Family visiting? You better guard that kitchen like it's Fort Knox. A forgotten spoon, or the "I might make another PB&J later" knife will become a full-on ant party. Open a new bag of something? Sealed container. Pantry. No exceptions. Is it sugar? Oh, screw you. You better seal the bag, put it in a sealed container, then put that container in another sealed container. Triple defense. And still, sometimes they sneak in. Maybe something wasn't sealed perfectly, or maybe they decided that almonds were delicious now, seriously? And I'll have to pull everything out and deep clean the entire pantry just to figure out what set them off. I've tried all the poison traps that supposedly take the bait back to the queen. Last time I was dealing with 5 nests. 5. When we renovated, we found 3 of them inside the kitchen wall. I had nightmares for weeks. I'm saving up for proper pest control, but it's expensive. I absolutely hate it, but I'll admit, I'm genuinely proud of the kitchen skills I've developed because of all this. I keep things spotless now, and when I'm on top of it, the ants are barely noticeable, until they pull some Mission Impossible stunt to get into the freaking icing sugar again. 0 to 10 experience. Would absolutely not recommend. But hey, my kitchen has never been cleaner. Story 11. Opening up about my sexual assault changed everything for me. It happened when I was 16, and by the time I turned 20, I still hadn't told a single person, not my parents, not even my best friends in high school who had gone through similar experiences. I carried a heavy sense of shame with me for 4 years. Then, at 18, I met my now boyfriend, and we've been together for a year and a half. I finally opened up to him less than a month ago. We were visiting his family, and I had been thinking about telling him all day. That night in the shower, I rehearsed what I was going to say. I told myself I wasn't going to cry. I believed it, too. After 4 years, the memory felt numb, distant, like it had lost its grip on me. But saying it out loud, to his face, was different. I cried. I stumbled over my words. And still, it felt good. For 4 years, the memory had been playing on repeat in my head, constantly, quietly weighing me down. But since I told him, I haven't thought about it once, aside from writing this now. If you've ever been sexually assaulted, abused, or gone through anything like that, I encourage you to tell someone you trust. I don't have all the answers, but I can say this. It does get better, even if it takes time. I let myself hurt in silence and feel ashamed for something that wasn't my fault, simply because I never reached out for help. Deep down, I knew it wasn't my fault. But it wasn't until I heard someone else say it that I actually believed it. You're not alone, and you never deserved what happened to you. Story 12. I started caring more about myself and stopped giving so many fucks about other people's expectations. I used to constantly come up with excuses for not working out, not taking care of myself, not taking breaks, not buying clothes or makeup I liked. I was always too busy trying to help others, please them, or adjust to what they wanted. So last year, my New Year's resolution was simple: be more selfish. I kicked it off by dyeing my hair a crazy color, something I'd wanted to do for ages, but always thought others wouldn't like. Turned out amazing. Then I started saying no. Someone wanted to go to a movie, but I had a workout scheduled. Sorry, I'll pass. Everyone wanted to hang out, but I needed a mental break. I stayed home and didn't feel guilty. When we were making group plans, dinner, a movie, whatever, I started speaking up about what I liked instead of just going along with everyone else. Maybe they'd agree, maybe not. Either way, I stopped being silent. Now, I feel way more confident in my choices because they're mine, not the watered-down, overly accommodating decisions I used to make. And the surprising thing? I think people respect my time more now, too. That just builds on the confidence. I still help when I can, and I'm happy to compromise, up to a point. But I won't sacrifice my own well-being to do it anymore. Story 13. I bought a cane, and it changed everything. I'm in my early 20s, but I've had joint pain since I was 13. At first, I thought it was just sports-related, but over time, the pain spread. Now it affects everything from the hips down in both legs. I've spent years pushing through it, even after going through extensive testing at 5 different places, including a high-tech children's hospital when I was 17. Despite all the workups and appointments, no one could figure out what was wrong. By the time I was 18 or 19, the pain became constant. At any given moment, I was sitting at a 3 or 4 out of 10 on the pain scale, and I just lived with it, mostly out of sheer frustration. Then, last year, I bought a cane, and honestly, it changed my life. Now I can stand in one place for longer than 10 minutes without the pain building to unbearable levels. I can sit down or get up from a chair without flinching or wincing in sharp pain, or needing to stop, stand, reset, and try again. I can walk through a grocery store on a good day without having to abandon my list 1/3 of the way through because I forgot painkillers or the cold made it too painful to continue. I can work 5 to 8 hour shifts. The pain still builds, but now I can cope. I don't feel like I'm going to collapse in tears if I can't sit down immediately. I'm no longer terrified of falling into painkiller addiction. That was a real fear, especially after I had all 4 wisdom teeth removed and was prescribed Vicodin. For the first time since I was 13, I felt no pain, and it scared me. It felt too good. But now I have an alternative that, while not instantly effective, helps. It's safer. It lets me function. I've since added knee braces for longer outings, and the improvement is unbelievable. The pain is still there, but it's manageable now. I can live with it. Story 14. I quit my call center job and ended up finding something way better, a part-time position that came with full-time benefits. After that, I sold most of my stuff and moved into a self-built camper van. I brought everything I loved with me: a kayak, a cyclocross bike, a surfboard, and an electric skateboard. Most days, I spent my time traveling or hanging out at the beach with my board. If I was lucky, I'd even get to chill with dolphins. I met a lot of women that way, mostly those just looking to get out of the house and enjoy life for a bit. We'd usually do something outdoorsy or go on a little adventure together. I only eat out when I'm with other people, so on those days, we'd eat like royalty. At night, I'd wind down at the beach or by a campfire with friends. A couple of beers to top it off made everything perfect. Most of my time was just dedicated to having fun and truly living. I wasn't making more than $35,000 a year during that time, but I'm really good at budgeting and saving. For about 8 months, I lived like that, and my life felt like something out of a movie. Pure freedom, peace, and joy. But eventually, I slipped back into the 9 to 5 grind. Got a house, a mortgage, and I regret it every single day. I'm working on changing that now, trying to get back to the lifestyle that actually made me feel alive. Story 15. I attended a music festival with some incredible, radical people, truly the kind of folks who live life to the fullest. They were the kindest, most emotionally aware humans I'd ever met, full of joy, authenticity, and a natural drive to be their best selves while still chasing success. Being around them was a wake-up call. It showed me what it looked like to live with intention, love, and presence. That experience changed me, but one of the best habits I picked up from it is something I've since carried into my own life: bringing those loving life vibes to concerts. I don't need a whole group anymore. I can do it solo. I get dressed like it's a party, show up ready to have a good time, and I make a point to be friendly and positive with whoever's nearby. And most importantly, I dance. Okay, maybe it's a stretch to call it dancing. Technically, it's more like a poorly coordinated sequence of awkward movements that may or may not follow the rhythm. But it doesn't matter. I'm happy. Genuinely, fully happy. That might not sound like much, but for me, it's everything. I used to be so uncomfortable in my own skin that I looked miserable at concerts. I was terrified of moving, scared of what people might think. I remember at least 3 different shows where strangers actually checked on me, asking if I was okay, if I was having fun, encouraging me to let loose and smile a bit. Complete strangers looked at me and saw someone who needed help. Now, I go out there and I own my weird, joyful energy. I dance badly. I smile a lot. And I can't even express how proud I am of how far I've come. Story 16. Taking responsibility for myself changed my life. For a long time, I saw myself as a victim because, truthfully, I had grown up in a situation where I was a victim. But over time, I started using that identity as a crutch. I normalized it. I leaned on it to avoid putting in effort, to avoid doing the work I needed to do. I've lived with treatment-resistant depression for about 10 years, but I only actively tried to treat it for the last 3. Before that, I got so used to the rhythm of my depression that I convinced myself it was the reason I couldn't do even the simplest things. I believed I couldn't leave the house to see friends, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't go to class. I used my depression to justify overreading, skipping school, oversleeping, all while ignoring the effort it takes to actually manage depression. But almost a year ago, something shifted. I started taking real responsibility for my actions and choices. I stopped using self-care as a way to escape and started treating it as actual care, doing the hard things, taking showers, going to my appointments, keeping up with laundry. Not bubble baths and Netflix, but the uncomfortable stuff that keeps life functioning. And it's paid off. In the past year, I've nearly completed my first year of college with a 4.0 GPA. I spoke at a Johnson & Johnson conference about mental health. I'm scheduled to speak at a State Department of Higher Education event in April and at a TEDx-style event later this year. My depression is being managed, and when I recently had a lapse, I reached out to my psychiatrist and therapist within 24 hours. Taking responsibility helped me recognize that I wasn't just depressed. I was also avoiding help. I had been hiding behind soft versions of self-care instead of doing the work that truly supports mental health. But once I started showing up for myself, everything changed. At 23, I'm finally building a life I'm proud of. Story 17. I went vegan and started working out, and it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. I used to be really self-conscious about my weight, and it had started to affect my sex life. My partner is vegetarian and had been thinking about going vegan. I was always a meat eater, and she never pressured me to change, but over time my meat intake naturally dropped. Every time we went out, it was important to choose a place with good vegetarian options, and honestly, I often ended up ordering the veggie meals myself because they were just as good, sometimes better, than the meat ones. So when I finally made the switch to a vegan diet, it wasn't a huge leap, but it was still a challenge to stick with. I definitely miss meat, and especially cheese, but I committed to the change, and I also started running regularly at the track near my house. The weight started coming off fast. I'm 5 feet 6 inches and was around 190 pounds, definitely on the chubbier side and steadily gaining. But since starting in October, I've lost 30 pounds, and I'm still going. My sex life has improved, my self-esteem is way up, and even my depression feels a bit lighter. On top of that, I've gotten way better at cooking, which my partner absolutely loves. I'm not going to say veganism is for everyone, but for me, it's been the best diet for weight loss and a genuinely healthy alternative. It's hard work, and yeah, I occasionally think about going back, but I made a commitment to this diet and to taking care of myself, and I'm sticking with it. Story 18. Consuming cannabis changed my life. I spent 14 years in the U.S. Army, deployed multiple times to combat zones. I went through 2 divorces, struggled in relationships, struggled with my family. Honestly, I had 2 jobs, 2 careers, 2 lives. I was I just struggled mentally. A few years after I medically retired for an unrelated medical issue, I finally gave in and saw a psychiatrist. That's when I was diagnosed with bipolar 1. They put me on everything, Valium, lithium, and probably every other med they could think of. It turned me into a zombie. I was numb, disconnected, and honestly unstable in ways that felt even more dangerous. One day, during a random fit of road rage, I chased another driver all the way to his home and nearly dragged him out of his van to beat him. That was my wake-up call. Not long after that, I started using cannabis, both smoking and edibles, and it changed everything. I've been using it regularly for 6 years now, and the shift in how I see life and how I move through the world is massive. My road rage? Gone. The little things that used to send me into a spiral of anger? They barely register anymore. I actually enjoy my work. I've tapped into a level of creativity I didn't even know I had. I finished my degree, I'm almost done with my master's, and I'm getting paid to do something I love. I know it sounds like the cliché story, but cannabis has been a literal lifesaver for me. I truly believe I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't found it. Legalize it, federally, fully, and without hesitation. Story 19. I grew up in a house where my mom was an organized hoarder. She had 5 sets of dishes, tons of pots and pans, and what felt like millions of clothes and blankets. But everything was always neatly put away. It didn't feel chaotic, but there was so much stuff. I never really questioned it until recently, when I watched a documentary on Netflix and listened to an audiobook about minimalism. Something just clicked. I was hooked. I started decluttering immediately. I got rid of half my clothes, shirts, pants, socks, underwear. I went through my video games and cut down from 58 to just 15, keeping only the ones I truly loved or could see myself replaying. I let go of random knickknacks and gifts I'd held onto for over 5 years, keeping only the ones with real sentimental value. And I'm still working on it, still figuring out how to maintain a minimalist lifestyle. Because of this shift, my room stays clean all the time. Cleaning is faster, easier, and less overwhelming. I no longer feel the urge to buy new stuff just to have it, which has saved me a ton of money. I've even started switching to wool clothing instead of cotton, since it lasts longer, and I've cut back on eating out. Coming home and seeing so little, but knowing that everything I do have is meaningful, it just makes me genuinely happy. Minimalism changed the way I live, and I wouldn't go back. Story 20. I have 3 things that have significantly improved my quality of life. 1. Eating right and exercising. I look better, I feel better, and my confidence and energy levels have gone through the roof. Even if I walk into the gym feeling like crap, I always leave feeling like a new person. Eating right, especially cutting down on carbs and sugar, has made a huge difference too. No more afternoon crashes or feeling sluggish halfway through the day. The combination of consistent workouts and a balanced diet has completely transformed how I function and feel day to day. 2. Sticking to a set bedtime. I go to bed at 10:30 p.m. every night. It might sound simple, but it's honestly been life-changing. Getting 8 to 9 hours of sleep consistently has made me way more productive. Compared to the days I used to get just 4 or 5 hours, I now wake up feeling refreshed and ready, not groggy and behind before the day even starts. 3. Staying organized and avoiding procrastination. I'm in my final semester of college, and I've learned a lot since my first semester. Mainly, the importance of staying on top of things. Back then, I was always unorganized, and I'd leave papers and studying until the last minute. That led to a ton of stress and burnout. Now, if I have a test coming up in a few weeks, I study a little bit every night. If a paper is due in a month, I start early and chip away at it 1 page at a time. Breaking things up like that has completely eliminated the last-minute panic. I also prep everything the night before, packing my backpack, placing my shoes, keys, wallet, and phone in the same spot, so I'm not scrambling around in the morning. All these small changes added up, and together they've completely changed how I move through life. Story 21. After 2 miscarriages, countless tears, and way too much stress, I finally went to a fertility specialist, and it was a complete game changer. For the first time, I had a medical professional in my corner who actually listened to me, validated my emotions, and took my concerns seriously. We sat down, addressed everything I was feeling and experiencing, and came up with a solid game plan. I ended up having 25 different tests done, including 13 vials of blood drawn. Ugh, that part was rough, nauseated face. And guess what? I have a hypoactive thyroid. This tiny little gland wasn't producing enough hormones, and it had been wreaking havoc on my life for years. Cold intolerance, extreme fatigue, depression, irregular or completely absent, periods, and yes, the miscarriages, it all traced back to my thyroid. I had seen 6 different OBGYNs since I first got my period. I even begged my mom to let me see a therapist when I was a kid because I didn't feel right and was struggling with suicidal thoughts. She said no. I eventually sought therapy on my own. But through all of that, not one person ever thought to check my thyroid levels. If I hadn't gone to the fertility clinic, I'd still be exhausted, depressed, unsure about whether I could ever have children, and stuck in a cycle of confusion and pain. I was living a life that felt hopeless and out of control. Now that I'm getting my hormones balanced, everything has changed. I wake up excited about life. I feel hopeful again. I'm productive, optimistic, and honestly, everything feels awesome. Story 22. Charging my phone overnight on the other side of the room instead of next to my bed has been a surprisingly life-changing decision. The benefits started almost immediately. I began sleeping better and earlier because I could no longer lie in bed mindlessly scrolling on a glowing screen until 1 a.m. Without that distraction, my nights became more peaceful and my sleep deeper. I also started reading books again. Slowly but surely, my attention span is improving. I'm not quite at the level I was as a kid, when I could get lost in a book for hours, but I'm getting there. And it feels amazing to reconnect with that kind of focus. My mental health has seen a real boost, too. I spend less time on social media overall, which means fewer doom-scrolling sessions and fewer anxiety spikes. I no longer start my mornings by reaching for my phone and diving straight into Facebook or news headlines. Instead, I've started meditating, just 5 minutes each morning after I stretch and make my coffee. I don't touch my phone until breakfast. Not getting hit with a wave of bad news the second I open my eyes has helped me feel so much more balanced and grounded. I won't lie, it was tough at first. I kept instinctively reaching for my phone in bed, only to realize it wasn't there. That alone was a huge wake-up call about how addicted I'd become without even noticing. But little by little, the habit faded. And honestly, it's so worth it. If you're thinking about doing it, do it. Story 23. I guess there are a number of things that helped, but the overarching theme is this. I killed my depression. A little over a year ago, I quit a soul-sucking retail job and moved to a different, much less soul-sucking retail job. It's still in a grocery store, still retail, but the difference is night and day. The company I work for now actually equips me to do my job, provides real resources, and makes me feel supported and appreciated in a way I never experienced before. The job isn't perfect, and there's still stress, but I feel so much more satisfied, more confident, and, most importantly, not completely burnt out. That change alone was a massive first blow to my depression. The second blow, the one that really did it in, was when I finally accepted something about myself I had known for years but kept ignoring. I'm an introvert. I had trained myself to behave like an extrovert for so long that it drained me completely. I existed in a fog of depression for years, so long that I genuinely forgot what normal even felt like. But around the same time I changed jobs, I started intentionally giving myself time to recharge. I need that space, and now I actually take it as often as I can. It's not always easy. I'm a dad, and my wife works the opposite shift, but I'm doing so much better. On top of that, I've lost 20 pounds since November, which has only added to the momentum. And here's the part that's really hard to describe. I feel things again. For so long, the only emotions I could access were numbness and anger. I could pretend to be happy or excited, and I got good at faking it. But now, I actually am happy. I am excited, and it's glorious. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, activate the notification bell, and share a similar story or anything you'd like to say in the comments. See you next time.